needed to go to prison to realize that running after everything was not important. In the final analysis, even if you have 10 homes, prison taught me that you have 8 by 8 by 8 cell where 8 people are sleeping. So you don't need 3 houses to sleep in.
On this episode of God in Our Conversations, I had the unique privilege of interviewing Mr. Kwame Pianim, a renowned Ghanaian economist. I was curious to find out a few things. What his personal philosophy is as a person, what he believes in, philosophies that changed his life, his values, his sense of what is wrong or right, some of his greatest mistakes, life lessons as a political prisoner after a failed coup d'etat in 1986 in Ghana, and some of his fondest childhood memories. His accolades and achievements are extensive, and he gained Commonwealth Scholarship to study at the University of New Brunswick, Canada in 1963 and graduated with a BA double honors in economics and political science. He did his master's degree in economics and political science at Yale University, USA. At the age of 26, Mr. Kwame Pianim was employed as an economic officer at the United Nations. He also initiated the Pension Fund of Ghana, popularly known as SNIT, and the Teachers Fund was also his brainchild. He's married to Cornelia Pianim, a Dutch national, and has 3 children. This is part 1 of the interview. So the first question, what can you tell me about your childhood?
My childhood was lovely. I spent a lot of time with my grandma in the village. And I'm told my grandmother spoiled me. My mother became like a sister. And in the village, you wake up in the morning and you go to the river, fetch water. If there was need to fetch water. We made it today, you take a big long stick, put wheels at the end of it, put a nail in the middle, and you put your bucket on it. So you put the long frame on your shoulder and you roll it down to the river, fill your bucket, and you drive your car back home. You shower, you eat, and you climb the hill up to school. And school was fun. We had classes, and then we had gardening. And one of the funs was we plant groundnuts. And groundnuts, you need to get the stems to get onto the ground so that they can form the small roots that produce the groundnuts. So we, the young ones, we play music and we'll be dancing on the groundnuts so that they get supplied on the ground. So it was lots of fun. Or sweet potatoes, the same thing, you have to make sure that the stems, the roots touch the ground, and that's where the tubers are formed. So it was fun. Gardening was made into music and fun. So that's what I remember. And lively Sundays, we were supposed to go to church, and the church was on top of the village, up the hill. So we go, and all I'll be thinking about was coming home to my grandmother's nice either fufu with chicken, live soup, or farm soup with mushrooms when the season is right. So I just couldn't wait for the church to end. And if the preacher was preaching too long, I sneaked away from the church and went home. That's what I remember about my dreams.
That's fantastic. Sounds like some favorite childhood memories there. So what is the ultimate purpose of life? The ultimate purpose of life. Why are we here?
I think that if you are lucky enough to find your way, then you realize that the simple things, I believe that at the end of the day, if you can look at yourself in the mirror and be able to tell yourself that you did not add to the misery, to the hardships of the poor, and that you made one person smile, especially if you can say that you provided some loving care, tender care to a child who has no adults to protect them, then I think you've done well and your life is worth living. Is to be able to care for one another, to show human solidarity, to love your neighbor. But it's not easy to love your neighbor. And as the Christians will say, I think you need to love God and believe that you forgive others as you pray that God will forgive you. And since your sins are by far more numerous in the presence of God than what your neighbor does to you, it then becomes easier to love your neighbor. Who is this difficult person who makes noise, keeps you from sleeping, throw things into your garden, make noise when you want to sleep? So it's not difficult to love your neighbor without loving something else. But I think that we live not for ourselves, for others. And I think in the African culture, it's easier. We are born into a family. You marry into a family. We live for the family. Your life is not as important as that of the family. And therefore you are prepared to sacrifice yourself for the family. So it is easier than the Western culture where the individual is the ultimate. I think the community is the ultimate.
Sounds good. Okay. So how long have you been married and what is your best marriage advice?
My wife and I have been married for 60 years. And I think that the best advice that I always tell people who are getting married is that the best marriage is not that you don't fight, that you don't have problems. I think it was one evangelist from America, Billy Graham's wife, who was once asked, have you ever considered divorcing your husband, Billy Graham? And she said, no, but I've considered murdering him 1,000 times. When you think about murdering your partner 1,000 times and you are still going on, the grass is not green on the other side. Then you have a lovely marriage. You are living for one another. Petty things shouldn't bother you. And if at the end of the day you are able to smile at one another and go to bed, then you have a perfect marriage.
Thank you. Right, tell us about your biggest mistake or regret.
Your
biggest mistake or regret. And why did this happen?
My biggest mistake or regret. I think my biggest mistake may be not finding out early in life that my best friend was my wife and that my best friends are my family. I needed to go to prison to realize that running after everything was not important. In the final analysis, even if you have 10 homes, prison taught me that you have 8 by 8 by 8 cell, where 8 people are sleeping. So you don't need 3 houses to sleep in. You need a small space to sleep in. And clothes, not more than 3, one of the bag, one in the bathroom, one washed and drying. So when we are outside struggling and running after material things and trying to endear yourself to thousands and thousands of people who call themselves friends, but they are all fair weather friends. Your best friends are identified when you are in trouble. And when I was in prison for 10 years, those who kept coming to visit me, my wife stayed here 10 years, bringing me food every week, bringing me documents to read, my family, my brothers and sisters coming to see me. So you realize, as the good book says, vanities of vanities, all is vanity. And the final analysis is you, the good that you do, and your community, your family. So not realizing early enough that the purpose of life is not to run after material things, and that not caring enough and reciprocating the love from your wife, from your siblings. I think that's a mistake we all make. The biggest mistake, there are too many mistakes. We are human, we make mistakes. But I take mistakes as a learning process. You make a mistake and you learn from it, then you are growing. One of the things I learned from being chairman some time ago, United Bank for Africa, a Nigerian bank, is that when a mistake is made, we stop everything and we analyze what went wrong. Did we not have regulations covering that? Did we not have rules governing that? Was it a human error? How did this happen? So by the time we do the analysis, as a group at the board level, we all come to know how the mistake was made. And then the solution is to make sure we never make the same mistake. Because they say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So make mistakes at all. So wherever I work, in the civil service, at Cocoa Board, in my own companies, I tell people, work as hard as you can, make mistakes if you do, I'll always stand by you. But if you benefit financially, socially, from the mistake you make, I'm not going to be behind you. So I think mistakes are the factory, the process of our growing. As long as you learn from your mistakes, then you are growing.
That's brilliant. Thank you for that. So sometimes it is easier to judge others and point out their flaws. Is there a flaw in your life, or perhaps something you are still working on or would like to change?
Oh no, I see myself as very human, very flawed. I spend a lot of time as a public policy analyst, talking about the economy of Ghana and how we can make progress and we should help to develop this country. People take it as a criticism of individuals. I'm not criticizing individuals. You know, the Christians say, hate the sin, but love the sinner. You know, it's the mistakes that are made, that are pointed, that are wrong. We should not do them again. But the people who are committing the mistakes, I have nothing against them. I think that if they see that these are wrong and they change, that's good. But when the mistakes are causing misery to the poor, the marginalized, to women, children, then somebody has to stand up and say, no, let's look at ourselves and let's change things for the better. I'm against social errors, social mistakes, social demeanors, and I don't understand why Ghana should not be by far better. The same Ghanaians, when they are in Europe, in America, they obey the laws. They are disciplined. What is wrong here? And we found out we don't allow the system to work. We don't allow the rules to work. We are fond of going to apologize for people who have not really accepted that they made a mistake, that they will try not to do that again. And I think that we need to enforce the systems. All of us have to come under the law, under the rule, be disciplined. If we're that, our towns will be clean. If they are clean, we are not taking waterborne diseases to our hospitals. We don't have to build hospitals to look after them. You take a woman goes to deliver in a clean hospital, and after a week take the baby home to a filthy house. What have we done for the child? So individual discipline, cleanliness, that's the way we have to go. So I look at myself as full of mistakes. I try to improve. And I don't criticize individuals. I criticize the activities and how we can sit back and improve and change the activities so that we impact beneficially, positively on our fellow citizens, on our communities.
So separating the behavior from the person is...
You see?
Separating the behavior from the person is key.
Yeah. Yes.
That's brilliant. Okay. So what is the best advice you have ever been given? So it's in two parts. And then tell us the best advice you have ever given.
The best advice I've ever been given. I think one was from my first boss in the United Nations in New York, who was Chinese. When I was getting ready to come home, and he said 3 things I'm going to tell you. You are smart, you are going home to work. He says, what people say to you, you are great, you are this, don't take that as what you are. When you wake up and look at yourself in the mirror, and you are not ashamed of whatever you've done, then you are doing well. People may be praising you because they want something to do, or they may, telling you done this wrong when they don't like you. So ignore that. And the second thing, people are not like bricks. You cannot cut them into the shape you want them. So when you are working with people, study them well. There are some people who cannot see money without stealing them. Put them where they can work, where there is no money. There are some people who cannot work with women without trying to shame them. Let them stay away from women. So take people, let them deliver the best out of them and minimize their adverse side, because you cannot get perfect people to work. And lastly, he said, you are going to work in a developing country. There will be temptations for people to bribe you, to take money, to do, or to ignore the rules and do what is wrong. He said, I'm not telling you not to take a bribe. You are smart. You know how to do cost-benefit analysis. So if somebody is going to try to give you money to do what you know is wrong, sit down, calculate the money. Because once you take the money, you may go to jail. Once you take the money, you lost your dignity in front of that person. You may not get a job anywhere again. So the rest of your life, your salary that you could earn, put that one down. And then your family name, if it's worth anything, put the value down. When you add all this amount together, and the money the guy has given you is the same or more than that, then take the money and go and disgrace yourself. But if it's less, let them go with their money. And I worked at Cocoa Board, Minister of Finance and so forth. And I can say that I've always done things the way I think they should be done. Because nobody has been willing or ready to give me the amount of money that will cover my family name. And once you get to a certain age, it's your name that is important. And that the people in my village will say, every child is given a name, not because of the good things you do, but for wrongdoing. So that's it. As I in a year, we in a year, we in a year, in some money, and yet, so that you don't spoil your family name, you don't destroy your reputation. And this was one of the best advice I was given. And my grandmother also told me when I was giving the don't go and rush around to make money to come and build in the village. You don't need any house there. Your grandfather has put the story building there. There's always a place for you to stay. And remember, nobody can feed you. If you are hungry, somebody is giving you food for the wrong reasons, you walk away. That's what my grandmother told me, and I've never forgotten it. So even when I am very hungry, I don't go borrowing money or doing this and that. I said, my dignity, the family dignity, the family name is more important. And that's what I should do.
Haven't already subscribed, please do share and leave a comment.